Good day everyone, I am Kelly Sixta Cardona and we're here to present about the rules of genes in heredity, effects of genes in our environment, gene mutations, DNA code, and the genetic code.
A pleasant morning to everyone. Good morning, ma'am. Good morning, my fellow classmates. First of all, I would like to introduce myself. I am Midole Branswell and we are the group that we are going to discuss about the role of genes in heredity. The heredity information is contained or within the genes, located in the chromosome of its cells. An inherited trait can be determined by one or by many genes, and a single gene can influence more than one traits. A human cell contains many thousands of different genes in a nucleus. Hereditary factors known as the genes are thought to exist as discrete portions or known as loci of chromosomes. The term discrete refers to the concept that genes are always located at the same point or locus of the chromosome. It is believed that pairs of homologous chromosomes contains linear, matching arrangements of genes exerting parallel control over the same traits. Pair of genes that exercise such parallel control over the same traits are known as alleles, which are of the two kinds, dominant and recessives. So, genetic characteristics can be extremely complex and may require the actions of the several separate genes to be expressed in the adult organism. So, the example of traits that requires more than a single pair of genes to be expressed are the human height and the human color. Other traits may be controlled by a single pair of genes. Some of these traits may have extreme phenotypes such as albinism or lack of skin pigment in the humans. So, common genetic disorder is Down syndrome, sickle cell disease, phenylketonuria or PKU, and hemophilia. So, each of our genes codes contains unique protein, and each protein has separate and distinct functions to perform in the cell. So, let's come now the effect of genes in our environment. So, genes are inherited, but their expression can be modified by interaction with the environment. Genetic traits are determined largely through the precise information found in the cell gene structure. A variety of factors in the environment can actually alter the effect of particular genes. So, some example of this effect are as follows. So, first is effect of light or chlorophyll production. Although most plants have the genetic ability to produce chlorophyll, they will do this only in the presence of light. So, without light, this plant produces only a light yellow pigment, and therefore a purple and sickly until they are exposed to sunlight. So, after a few days of exposure to sunlight, the chlorophyll production mechanism is enabled and green color will return. So, next example is effect of temperature on hair color in Himalayan hair. In their native Arctic environment, Himalayan hares have white body hair with black hair on their extremities. However, when raised in warm climate, they are entirely white. On further study, scientists shave off some hair from the hare's back and strap an ice pack onto the bare skin. This experimental condition showed the hare's hair grew back black, including the role of the environment temperatures on the productions on hair color in this species.
Hi, I'm Alyssa West, and I am going to discuss gene mutation. Gene mutation occurs when a DNA gene is damaged or changed in such a way as to alter the genetic message carried by that gene. Examples of gene mutation are Angelman syndrome, Canavan disease, color blindness, Friedreich syndrome, cystic fibrosis, Down syndrome, Duchenne muscular dystrophy, and etc. Genes are segments of DNA molecules. Any alteration of the DNA sequence is a mutation. Usually, an individual cell's altered gene will be passed on to every cell that develops from it. Gene mutation may be defined as being any changes in the nitrogenous base sequence of a molecule DNA. When the base sequence of DNA is altered, the amino acid sequence of the polypeptide for which it codes will likewise be altered. Such an alteration may affect the operation of the resulting enzymes, preventing it from properly catalyzing its reaction and thus preventing a trait from being expressed by the cell. The majority of gene mutations are harmful because they result in the cell being impaired from performing some specific task. In rare cases, a mutation may result in a lethal gene that kills the cell either by producing a substance toxic to the cell or by failing to produce protein of vital importance to the cell. Gene mutations are passed to every cell that rises from the mutated. If the mutation occurs in somatic tissues, it affects it limited to the tissues immediately surrounding the mutated cell. On the other hand, DNA is a polymer made up of a repeating chemical unit known as the nucleotide. Thousands of the units are known to comprise a single DNA molecule, make it one of the largest of all organic compounds. DNA exists in hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of different forms depending on the precise arrangement of nucleotides in the molecule. Its variability is the key to genetic variation in having things. DNA nucleotides compose of three separate subunits. 1. Phosphate group, a chemical group made up of phosphorus and oxygen. 2. Deoxyribose, a 5-carbon sugar made up of carbon, oxygen, and hydrogen. And 3. Nitrogenous base, a chemical unit composed of carbon, oxygen, hydrogen, and nitrogen. Base found in DNA are adenine A, thymine T, cytosine C, and guanine for G. That's all. Thank you.
So what's up? I'm your again, Kelly6 Cardona, and I'm here to present about the DNA code. The chemical and structural properties of DNA are the basis of how the genetic information that underlies heredity is both encoded by genes and replicated by means of template. As we recall, DNA is a complex organic molecule composed of thousands repeating nucleotide molecules, and that each free nucleotide molecules carries with our one nitrogenous bases. The particular sequence of nitrogenous bases are adenine, thymine, cytosine, and guanine. Comprise a strand of DNA and providing the type of chemical code that is understood by the chemical mechanism of the cell. The DNA code is used by this mechanism to manufacture specific enzymes and other proteins through the process of photosynthesis. DNA strands provides a template or a pattern for the formation of messenger RNA. The DNA code is transcribed or read by mRNA as the latter synthesized in a pattern complementary to the DNA strand. The process by which the DNA code transferred to mRNA code is known as transcription. Each of three nitrogenous bases, known as a triplet codon, provides the information necessarily to the code for the insertion of a single specific amino acid into building protein molecule. The particular sequence of triplet codon on DNA enables amino acid to be linked together in a specific sequence during photosynthesis. In conclusion, DNA is not merely a molecule with a pattern. It is a code, a language, and an information storage. And the last one is the genetic code. Every organism requires a set of coded instructions for specifying its traits. For offspring to resemble their parents, information must be reliably transferred from one generation to the next. Heredity is a passage of this instruction from one generation to another. Discoveries in the genetic science, deoxyribonucleic acid or DNA was revealed to be the chemically active agent of the genes. DNA replicates itself when its chromosome replicate in early stage of the division of cell. DNA is passed from generation to generation during reproduction and acts as genetic factors. DNA interacts with the cell chemical factory and produces the observable effects of the phenotype when genes are inherited by a cell or an organism. DNA regulates the production of enzymes in the cell and thereby enables the cell to perform the complex circular chemical reaction necessary to sustain life. Stem cell therapy focuses on the use of stem cells to treat or prevent a disease or condition. Stem cells are a special breed of cells that are capable of differentiating into more than one kind of tissue. Stem cells are used for curing various diseases such as diabetes, arthritis, few cancers, and bone marrow failure. And that's all. Thank you.